Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Byron Bunt and I'm working with Prof. Jako. We work at the Northwest University in South Africa and we want to be part of the call for the Champions of Reimagined Assessment project run by Dr. El-Khoury. From this perspective, we want to quickly outline the project we have in mind and why we consider this a reimagined assessment project. Now, first of all, we are advocating the use of renewable assessments and in an open way, as open educational resources. Now, as opposed to this renewable assessment idea, we have what are known as disposable assessments. This is more the traditional form of assessments, which is not what we're advocating at all. So if an assessment is disposable, its ultimate destiny, therefore, is the garbage can. So you could take an all-too-typical example where a lecturer assigns students to write a two-pager comparing and contrast essay. The student then writes the paper, submits it. The lecturer then assesses or marks the paper and returns it to the student. And then as soon as the student sees what marks they received, they briefly look at the comments and guess what happens then? They throw it away. Now, using a renewable approach, a renewable assessment approach, this is the complete opposite, right? So what this means, it's different, that the student's work isn't actually discarded at the end of the process, but it actually adds value to the world in some way. And in this case is where the open part of it comes in. So everyone else can have access to it and use it. Rather than writing essays to submit to the instructor and then throw it away, these students contribute their own quality research. Remember, we are at a university level training teachers, so this would be good for future teachers to use as well. It helps them in their writing and research skills, even uploading information to Wikipedia or any other kind of open repository like OER Commons, for instance, where others will then be able to benefit from their work for years to come. And it can also be adapted, but we'll come to that now. So in simple terms, a renewable assessment is one that has a shelf life beyond just the mere grading and assigning a mark for that work. It's not disposed at the end. And, students have complained about doing assessments and how instructors mark them. So one of the many goals of renewable assessments is to turn students from passive consumers of information to actually being active producers of knowledge. They're creating, as we know in Bloom's revised taxonomy, the act of creating is the highest form of thinking, actually. This is not directly benefits the students as they engage deeply with the content, but also the community in general, as the end product will be shared for the common good, and that is according to Prof in 2013. Now, I'm also advocating an open educational approach with this renewable assessment. Now, what does it mean to have an open educational resource? Well, again, retain, so that links with the renewable aspect where the work can be kept forever. It's not thrown away. But then in addition, you can reuse it. So you can use the work for your own purpose. It can be revised. It can be adapted, modified, or even translated. This is especially useful in South Africa, for instance, where we have 11 official languages. So that kind of contextualizing for multilingual, multi-languages, for instance, it will really help. You can remix the work. You can combine it with other resources to make a newer, more complex work, and of course the redistribution part where you share it with other people. Now, there are benefits for using OERs for academics and for students. Of course, for students, the big draw to this is that it's free. Everything is available free for online. You can access it anywhere, anytime, via your cell phone or laptop or computer. It supports independent learners. It's customized, it's relevant, it's current. It's always edited constantly. It's always improved upon. It's iterated on. So it's not this outdated thing that's lying there and it's never being used. There are materials in multiple formats. This links with multimodalities like videos or your standard reading materials, anything like that. Voice recordings, you name it. It can be in any mode. Potential increase in graduation and retention rates. Research has shown that open educational resources being used in a classroom really does assist with students in their learning. And for academics, well, there's versatility. You can tailor it to meet the students' needs. and the students will thank you for that. It allows for collaboration, especially overseas, internationally, as we're doing now. Thank you for the opportunity. It adds values to existing coursework, so it just improves the overall content being delivered. An open collegial culture through sharing of open resources, and you share these innovations freely. And of course, the big thing here is the brainstorming and generating new ideas and becoming inspired. Now, to end off, I'll briefly just go over what my project will entail using an open renewable assessment approach. Now, I'm doing this in my history education module with my final years. What they'll be doing then is using also a game-based approach where they will design board games or card games, and that'll be part of their normal assessment. I will grade these games that they create. What happens then, however, it's not disposable. I don't just award the mark and then they throw these games away. No. However, all of the games rules, the pieces they make, the cards they make, the boards that they create, all of these things, we'll take photographs of these things and they'll be uploaded as an OER on an open education repository, for example, OER Commons. And then, of course, the students as well. I mean, they're making games. Why not play them? The students will then actually be in cooperative groups. They will then rotate, depending on the number of students and the number of games that have been made. They will then each rotate and play each other's games as well. And they can then peer evaluate each other using a rubric. And then, of course, the renewable part comes in, where after all this stuff has been uploaded as OERs, the following years, in 2023, final years, will then adapt the games that were made this year in 2022, which means they'll be employing the renewable assessment approach. Thank you. I hope that explained the idea we have for this project. Thank you.
Good day. My name is Jako, and I'm working with Byron Bunt on this project, focusing on renewable assessments, in this case specifically within the history class. For me, renewable assessments, or renewable assignments as it's sometimes called in the literature, is one step closer to reaching what I would want to term self-directed multimodal assessments. This approach allows you to work across modalities, to allow students to not only focus their assessments to writing, but also involve other materials such as videos and multimedia in general. Furthermore, self-directed multimodal assessment implies another aspect, and that is student agency. Student agency comes in especially in the case where renewable assessments allows the student to be central to the assessment process. In future, I think we should move towards getting even further student involvement in letting them collaboratively with the lecturer or teacher determine the nature of the assessment, the way it is assessed in terms of rubrics, but also building the process around the needs that the student have. And in that way, making them more literate in terms of assessment, but ultimately self-directed learners themselves. So in conclusion, this project aims at building capacity amongst our students in creating renewable artifacts, something that can be reused for the benefit of others. In this case, it can be by other students, but ultimately openly licensed resources derived from assessments, of course, can become resources that can be used by teachers and students outside of the formal university context. Thank you very much.